What if I told you your people-pleasing didn't start in adulthood? It didn't start in school. It didn't start in your relationships. It didn't even start with your personality. It started with your parents. And here's the part nobody ever tells you. You didn't become a people-pleaser. You were trained into one. Shaped, conditioned, engineered, before you even knew what the word boundaries meant. But the wild part, most people never realize the training even happened until it's already running their entire life. And you're about to see exactly how, because the story behind people-pleasing isn't cute, or harmless, or just being nice. It's darker, stranger, and honestly, a little heartbreaking. But once you understand it, you can break out of it, if you want. Ready? Let's go deeper. Be good, or else? Do you remember the first time you were told to be good? Probably not, because it happened before you could even form memories. A raised eyebrow, a disappointed sigh, a cold tone, a silent treatment, a punishment that felt too big for such a small mistake. You didn't have words for it, but your nervous system did. And here's the crazy part. You weren't learning how to be good. You were learning how to be approved of. There's a difference. Being good is moral. Being approved of is survival. Because when you're a child, losing a parent's approval feels life-threatening, and your brain takes notes, fast. Your feelings don't matter. Here's a fun little twist. You didn't start people-pleasing because you cared about other people's feelings. You started because your feelings were dismissed. You cried. You're overreacting. You were hurt. Stop being sensitive. You were upset. Don't make this a big deal. So your brain did what all intelligent brains do. It adapted. It learned that the easiest way to stay safe was to stay small, to not bother anyone, to avoid causing a scene, to swallow your needs, to bury your pain, to shrink your existence. And every time you stayed quiet, your parents were proud of you. Such a good kid, such an easy child, and that praise felt like warmth, so you kept repeating the behavior. Congratulations, you are now being rewarded for disappearing. Your job is to keep the peace. Let me guess. You became the mediator, the fixer, the emotional shock absorber. Maybe one parent had a temper. Maybe the other had anxiety. Maybe both were stressed. Maybe nothing chaotic even happened. But you sensed the tension in the air. And because kids are emotional sponges, you became the one who kept everyone calm, except you weren't doing it consciously. You were doing it instinctively. You learned to scan the room, listen to tone changes, predict reactions, smooth over conflicts, say the right thing, do whatever prevented an explosion. You didn't call it survival. You called it being helpful. But the truth? Children shouldn't be emotional managers. That job belongs to adults. But when adults fail to regulate themselves, children absorb the responsibility. And that responsibility becomes identity. The hidden contract you never agreed to. There's something all people-pleasers share. A secret contract written in their childhood. A contract that says, if I make everyone else comfortable, then I will finally feel safe. But here's the twist. Nobody told you this contract existed. And yet, you've been living by it your entire life. Think about it. You apologize for things you didn't do. You say yes when you want to say no. You smile when you're uncomfortable. You let people cross lines. You avoid disagreements. You settle for less. You adjust yourself to make others feel better. And the wild part, you don't even realize you're doing it, because this behavior was installed into you, like software, by the people who raised you, not out of malice, but out of their own unresolved wounds. And you became the one who paid the price. The praise that turned into a prison. Do you know what the most dangerous compliment in childhood is? You're so mature for your age. Sounds nice, right? Except maturity is not supposed to be a performance. It's supposed to be a developmental stage. But when you're praised for being strong instead of being allowed to be a child, your brain gets confused. A kid who learns to be mature too early never learns how to be themselves because they're too busy being who others want them to be. Here's the crazy part. That praise turns into a cage. Being mature becomes your identity. Being easy becomes your role. Being good becomes your survival strategy. And the price you pay is simple. You lose your voice. The adult you becomes a ghost of the child you were. Let's jump ahead. You're an adult now, on paper at least. But inside, you're still that kid scanning the room, trying to avoid disappointing anyone, trying to avoid being a burden, trying to earn approval you should have gotten for free. You think you're kind, empathetic, helpful, and you are. But deep down, your kindness isn't free. It's fear wearing friendliness as a costume, fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of being disliked, fear of being abandoned, fear of being too much. You became the adult version of the child who learned, this is the only way to be loved. And that's heartbreaking, but it's not the end of the story. Because here's the twist you didn't see coming. You can unlearn it. Be honest with yourself. Are you a people pleaser? Or were you raised into one? If anything in this video is hitting uncomfortably close to home, drop a yes in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how many of us were wired the same way. All right, back to the story. And now we're getting into the part almost nobody talks about. The part that changes everything. The childhood survival strategy that became a personality trait. Most people think people-pleasing is a personality flaw. It isn't. It's a survival mechanism that stayed too long. It shows up in your adult relationships, your job, your friendships, your romantic life. But here's something surprising. Your brain doesn't know the danger is over.
It still thinks you're that child in the living room, walking on eggshells, trying to keep the peace. So every time you sense someone is upset, your system activates. You try to fix it. You try to make them laugh. You try to soften your tone. You try to apologize. You try to take responsibility you don't even own, because your body remembers the rules, even when your mind doesn't. Here's the strangest part about people pleasers. You're amazing at understanding others, their feelings, their needs, their emotional cues. But when it comes to yourself, it's like hitting a wall. You don't know what you want. You don't know how to say no. You don't know how to set boundaries. You don't know how to ask for help. You don't know how to take up space. Because the child you once were learned that your needs were secondary, optional, irrelevant, inconvenient. So adult you never learned how to identify them, let alone express them. Let me tell you something harsh. People pleasers are often the loneliest people in the world because you show up for everyone, except yourself. You're so focused on being who others need that nobody ever gets to meet the real you, not even you. And then you wonder, why does nobody understand me? Why do I always get used? Why do I feel unseen? Why do people walk over my boundaries? Here's the truth. People can't respect boundaries that you never learned how to express. This isn't your fault. This is unhealed childhood conditioning, still running your life like background code. But once you see the code, you can rewrite it. Awareness is the first crack in the cage. So let's break it wide open. Ask yourself, when did I learn that my value comes from being useful? When did I learn that my needs don't matter? When did I learn that love must be earned? Because people-pleasing is a pattern. But patterns have origins, and those origins usually trace back to very specific childhood moments. Moments you didn't think mattered. Moments you brushed off. Moments you don't even talk about. But your brain remembered, and it shaped your entire adult life around them. This is the part where people either wake up or they shut down. If you're still here, you're choosing to wake up. Respect. Let's keep going. This is the part that stings. Ready? Your parents didn't have to be abusive to turn you into a people pleaser. They just had to be emotionally inconsistent, unpredictable, overreactive, dismissive, unavailable, strict, stressed, dependent, overwhelmed, immature, or simply not paying attention. Children don't need perfect parents, but people pleasers, they're almost always raised by parents who lacked emotional stability, not because they were bad people, but because nobody taught them emotional regulations either. And trauma passes down quietly, not with violence, but with silence. Every people pleaser has one thing in common. Their attachment style was shaped under stress. You learned to attach by earning, fixing, performing, calming, softening, sacrificing, compromising, contorting. Your nervous system built a blueprint that said, connection equals effort. Love equals work. Belonging equals self-abandonment. And that blueprint didn't vanish when you turned 18. It followed you everywhere. Into relationships, into friendships, into work, into every decision you make. But once you recognize the blueprint, you can start building a new one. Real ones. Not the fake, just set boundaries advice you see online. Because you can't set boundaries if you don't believe you're allowed to. And people pleasers rarely believe that. So here's where the transformation begins. And it starts with 4 internal shifts. Shift 1. Allow yourself to disappoint people. Yeshwix. Read that again. The moment you realize the world won't collapse if someone is slightly disappointed in you, everything changes. Because disappointment is not danger, but childhood you believed it was. Shift 2. Stop explaining your boundaries. People pleasers over-explain everything because you're trying to avoid conflict. But boundaries don't require essays. They require conviction. Short, clear, neutral. No apologies. No stories. No emotional footnotes. Shift 3. Feel the guilt. And do it. Anyway, people pleasers think guilt is a sign they're doing something wrong. It's not. It's a sign you're doing something new. Your guilt is actually freedom stretching. Let it stretch. Shift 4. Reconnect with your real self. The self you buried. The self you muted. The self you hid. The self you softened. The self you abandoned. You don't need to create a new self. You just need to return to the one your childhood forced into silence. The one most people never see coming. Your people-pleasing didn't make you weak. It made you hyper-aware, emotionally intelligent, attuned, adaptive, empathic, intuitive, observant. These are not flaws. These are superpowers. They were just born from fear. But once you heal the fear, those same traits become strengths, not survival tools. Strengths. And you become someone unstoppable, not because you're pleasing everyone, but because you finally stop abandoning yourself. If this video opened something inside you, you're not alone. Tell me in the comments, did this start in childhood for you? And if you want more deep psychology breakdowns like this, subscribe. Before you forget, because the next video goes even deeper, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.